So today I'm here to review the PlayStation VR2 after having access for around 10 days, 11 days. First of all, let's go over some of the specs of the headset itself. It's a 4K OLED HDR panel, obviously per eye it's around 2K. The headset is capable of 90 to 120 Hz refresh rate. Now for graphically demanding games, I believe they're going to be using something called asynchronous reprojection, which means the games can run at 60 frames but look like the smoothness of 120. But I do believe some games that aren't graphically intensive, maybe Thumper for example, Res, Tetris, might natively hit 90 or 120. So I think reprojection's there for games like Gran Turismo, Resident Evil, the games that would struggle to hit anything over 60 anyway on the PS5. Now the PlayStation VR2 also has Fresnel lenses, which means unfortunately yes there is God rays, but they're not major, and also that means there is a sweet spot, which I was absolutely fine with. The headset actually fits exactly where it should do for me, but for my wife for example, she had to have like the headband quite high up to get that sweet spot, or otherwise it looked blurry. So basically what I'm saying is it is subjective. When it comes to the IPD range, I actually can't find that information. What happens is when you're in the headset, it'll tell you to basically use this to scroll the lenses apart until your eyes are in the center of these like two blue circles. It's a very simple process. It's really quite cool, and that's the same process you use for eye tracking, which again is super cool. I love the technology inside this headset. There's 4 cameras on here to give you inside out tracking, which means unlike the original PSVR, you needed a camera and it was light-based tracking. Also, I've been testing the tracking in different lighting scenarios. I've heard if it's super bright, the tracking suffers. Now, I've got 2 Elgato ring lights, third light above me as well. So when I filmed Horizon, I used all these lights and the tracking seemed fine. If it's too dark, then it won't work, but on a dimly lit room, it seemed okay. The setup process of this headset is super easy. You look around your room in pass-through, it scans all the room, maps the floor. You can even adjust it using a like orange and blue plus or minus figure, and as long as you've got over 2 meters, you can then do room scale VR. The controllers have IR sensors in them, which are seen by the headset, and that's how the tracking basically works. And unlike the original PSVR, to connect this, it is one wire, which is so nice. You just stick it straight in, turn it on, and you are greeted with a lovely rumble from the headset. That's on and off. I absolutely love that. Now, when it comes to the cable, it is light, it is flexible, and it is definitely going to be durable. So I bought 3 USB extenders to test. Thought I'd go in straight with the 3 meter cable, expecting it to fail, but actually, and I will share a link below, we played it for like 4 or 5 hours yesterday, and I didn't have a single issue, which has given me a 7.5 meter cable, which is way more than I need. I literally bought these for testing. The social screen is also a really lovely feature. Most people have their PlayStations probably in their front rooms, but now when you're in VR, everyone can see what you're doing. And on the original PSVR, there was a game called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. And what would happen is the person in VR would be defusing bombs, and the person sitting next to you, not in VR, would know how to defuse the bomb with the instructions on the social screen. That basically makes VR just that little bit more social in comparison to at the moment on Quest 2. If you want to show someone what you're playing, you need a Chromecast, and it also always looks a little bit delayed, and the video doesn't always look so good. So I think the social screen is a really cool thing for people who are going to invest in PSVR 2. On the back of the headset, you've got the auxiliary port. I've been using the PlayStation Pulse headphones. Now, I think for immersion, the Pulse headphones are the way to go, but I don't think you need to rush out and buy them yet. I actually prefer these headphones, and the other reason is when you use the Pulse headphones, your mic goes to the Pulse headphones, and it is not as good as the mic built in on the headset. One of the benefits of having Pulse headphones is you've got a volume button. If you use these, there's no volume controls, so you need to use the system software, turn down the volume. And then we have the visor part of the headset, which basically blocks out all light, which means the pass-through button here is super needed, because trying to get your hands and figure out where your hands need to go on these controllers, I've still not got used to it, and you'll see what I'm saying when you get it. When it comes to the Sense controllers, the haptics in these things are absolutely superb. They feel great, they look great, and if there was anything that I had negative to say about them, it would be the grip button. It's basically small. It's almost too close to the controller to feel like you're really gripping something sometimes, but maybe that's because I've been using touch controllers where the grip button is actually quite prominent. So when it comes to measuring the battery life of these things, I've done it 3 times over, and I get a different result every time, and the reason is it literally depends what games you're playing. If you're playing something, for example, like Star Wars After the Fall, there's a lot of rumble going on because you're using guns and stuff. So my time, I think, is around 5 hours, and the charge time, if I could guess anything, I'd say you're well on your way again within the hour. That's the only real downside feature of these controllers. I think they're superb. Played a game called Switchback the other day, and feeling the Uzi's recoil in these. was brilliant. Obviously, if you don't know as well, they're adaptive triggers. So for example, a shotgun's trigger could be harder to pull, similar to using the DualSense. So now I want to talk about what it's like to actually own a PlayStation VR2. I do have some technical issues which I will talk about, but I just want to get my overall feelings about this headset out there before I get into that. I absolutely love this. It's everything I would expect for what you pay for it. It feels great. It's so comfy. It's super fun to use. I love the headset haptics. I love the controllers. This really is everything I expected from the next generation PlayStation VR. The actual display, super colorful. The contrasts can be fantastic, and the brightness is beautiful. Basically, when you play a game like Horizon and you're using the dynamic foveated rendering and the eye tracking, it's gorgeous. It really is gorgeous. You'll be sort of blown away by what you're seeing. And when you combine the controllers and the ease of use as well, just simply turning the PlayStation on, selecting a game, it's just brilliant. It really does feel like, how can I put it? This feels like a VR gaming device. You know, it's not trying to be anything else. It's not trying to be mixed reality, especially some of the top titles that are bound to come to PSVR as exclusives. This, you do need one of these. I'm so happy this is now in my life, and I can't wait to just keep doing coverage for it. I think it's incredible. So now I'm going to get into the negatives of the video, which is really unfortunate. I hate to do this, but here they are. The tracking is not as good as, say, a Quest 2, and I think it's more to do with the camera positioning. It definitely gets confused a bit more than the Quest 2. When it comes to the screen, as much as it looks beautiful, there is slight screen door. Also, when games use reprojection, I've seen some major ghosting in games like Kayak VR, where you've got a really bright blue background with something of opposite contrast. You can see ghosting where the reprojection is working. Now, the panel also suffers from something called a mirror effect, and it's not all the time at all, because if the game is meant to be pitch black, it's black. Like, the blacks are fantastic in this thing. But if there's ever an environment where it's a little bit bright against some other contrasts, you can end up looking like you're looking through a net. And I've only really noticed it in Kayak VR more than any other. So for the last half an hour, I've been trying to capture what I'm seeing when it comes to the mirror effect and ghosting using a mobile phone, and it's incredibly difficult. Don't think it's actually something that I should share, because it's just not good enough. So when you get your headsets, just let me know if you see it yourselves. If you don't, that's absolutely awesome, but I wouldn't say it if I didn't think it was worth saying. And why on earth you get two Sense controllers in the box, yet you only get one cable to charge them with? I do not understand that at all, which means you're going to have to buy the PlayStation charge station. So if you've got a PS5, I would definitely recommend getting one of these. I understand that if you don't own a PS5, it's a large investment, but it's probably about the same as a semi-good PC, not a decent PC, especially for the visuals you're seeing here. It would cost a lot more to achieve these visuals. And also, some great games that were on PSVR and Quest are now available to a wider audience, and that is great for developers. I will always be covering all of VR as much as possible, so thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.